We had a great week trading as a team. Here's a few trades that we caught this past week. Now let's get into this Forex forecast. All right, starting the weekly Forex forecast off with the US dollar, the DXY here. As you can see, a pretty nice reaction off of this little drop-based drop selling area that I pointed out last week. So we have seen that move down. We do have a red weekly candle here as we look at the DXY weekly chart. So clearly some supply is taking in control here. So are we going to see the pushback down to demand, down to 101, below 101.5? So far, I mean, we are seeing signs that we could be going down. Although on the daily chart here, you can clearly see we do have this daily demand zone that is currently in control. You can see a huge wick from this area of demand all the way back up to like the 104 areas on the DXY. And this is a daily demand zone that I pointed out last week as well. So far, seeing a nice move off of that daily demand zone. But as we look at the 4-hour chart here, you can see from a while ago, we do have this pretty clean looking upward trend line here on the DXY, and we actually came into contact with the trend line, clearly spiked below it, and that's when we spiked right into that daily demand zone. And kind of some manipulation here if you're asking me, but currently the 4-hour trend line is still holding. So as long as this is holding, I guess you could be looking for longs, especially since that daily demand zone is now in control on the DXY as well. And something significant actually took place here on the 1-hour chart. As you guys knew, we had a beautiful picture perfect 1-hour downtrend. We actually broke through some supply, creating demand at 103.73. We have not hit this demand yet, but another significant event has taken place where there was some sort of manipulation here above the trend line, but we've officially broken this trend line. So that is a decent amount of evidence to suggest we could see some strength here in the dollar, along to go with the fact that the daily demand is in control as well. It actually increases the odds of price going up. Now, whether or not we go up from here or we pull back down to this daily demand, down to this 1-hour demand at 103.73 first, and then react, that is for another discussion. But I think either or is possible. And look, I could be wrong, right? That whole daily demand zone could fail, and the DXY could really drop. That is definitely possible. But until this 1-hour demand zone is removed, I will be kind of bullish on the DXY. It doesn't mean throughout this video I won't point out shorting opportunities on the dollar. I like to point out multiple different situations for people who are bullish and bearish. So I would not really be super bearish to the dollar, like I said, until this 1-hour demand zone can be removed. And to kind of summarize, the next question really is, are we going to pull back down to 1-hour demand first and react, or are we going to go up right away? So with that 1-hour downward trend line broken, I think we could see some upward pressure here on the US dollar. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. And by the way, every like helps for this video because all of the ad revenue from these weekly Forex forecasts is donated to my local hospice. So if you want, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, would be much appreciated. So looking at the daily chart here of the euro, we are still sitting basically in the middle between supply and demand. So there's not really a whole lot to go off of, although demand is technically in control here as we look at that daily chart. And on the 4-hour chart, we did get a significant break of momentum. We broke above this trend line, currently reacting off of a 4-hour supply zone. I've had the zone on my charts for weeks now. So the move from supply to demand could happen down to 1.07. If you are bullish the euro, I don't really like getting in long until we can push down to this demand zone, where then we can maybe look for a long trade off of this 4-hour demand zone at 1.077. That is really the highest odds situation to look for longs. The shorting trade has already kind of worked out as we've pushed off of supply already. So for longs, we either need to wait for this demand zone to be hit, or let's say we don't push down to the demand, we push back up, break through supply like that. Any 4-hour demand zone there, we could look for longs at to basically trade the continuation of the move up. So really two options here on the euro. Like I said, I don't like shorting at this supply again. It's tested with a wick. You could, I guess, in theory, look for shorts on a day trading time frame, but with the break of momentum here and clear profit margin to the upside on the daily chart, I think waiting for pullbacks to demand is going to be good. or waiting for supply to be removed, and then a pullback to demand is going to be good here on the euro. And like I said, we have a very clear profit margin up to daily supply at 1.09. So it's one of those times where it makes me feel a little bit better trading, considering there's very clear profit margin, and we have recently broke momentum on the 4-hour chart. So it's really all about waiting for those pullbacks down to the 4-hour demand zone, or waiting for new demand zones to be formed here on the euro US dollar. On to the forecast for gold. Just a reminder here, I've been saying it in every weekly forecast video, but we do have a weekly upper trend line here, so it's looking really good. As long as this trend line is holding on the weekly, I'm going to be pretty bullish here on gold. So we really want to see that next leg up here on gold to continue to basically trade the continuation of that weekly trend. And as you guys know, we had this daily demand zone. I pointed this out a couple weeks ago as well. So far, we have seen nothing but pretty much bullish pressure to the upside here since we have hit this daily demand zone. Now, if you look at these daily candles here, I wouldn't say these are the most bullish candles ever. You know, there are wicks on pretty much all of them. So really looking to get that next kind of big leg up here on gold. But we did actually catch this beautiful 4-hour demand zone trade at 2019 off of this 4-hour demand zone. And that is from the daily market breakdown video. And if you guys do want access to my market forecast throughout the trading week, my daily market breakdown videos, daily chart analysis, video lessons, Sunday Zoom sessions, check out the Diamond membership. We have lifetime access available as well, so we'd be happy to see all serious traders join the team to get my analysis throughout the week. So as we look at this 4-hour chart here, we clearly reacted off the demand. So with the 4-hour demand and control, we could be day trading long. I wouldn't really call this a trend. I would just say momentum is to the upside here. So I think looking for longs on day trading timeframes could be good, especially since we have a 1-hour uptrend as well. So yes, going back to the daily chart, we are starting to approach these highs here, but with the demand and control and the weekly trend up on gold, I think looking for longs is really going to be the most favorable option. In the meantime, I don't really have any good zones to point out, because like I said, that 4-hour zone has already taken place. That is why I post my analysis throughout the week, so we can catch trades throughout the week, not just on these weekly forecast videos. But we also have a picture perfect looking 1-hour uptrend on gold. So what that means is on a 1-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, you could be day trading long with this 1-hour uptrend. As long as this 1-hour upward trend line is holding, I think looking for longs on day trading timeframes is going to be good. And why am I so bullish? Well, remember, like I said at the start, we have a pretty nice weekly upward trend with a daily demand zone in control. So yes, we already caught a beautiful trade off of gold, but we will definitely be looking to continue to trade with that weekly trend and continue to look for longs here on gold. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. So looking at the weekly chart here, just a reminder, we are sitting in weekly supply, but I mean, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green bullish candles in a row. To me, it looks like we could break to the upside. It's really all going to depend on the DXY daily chart to see if that daily demand is going to hold or not. If it does, I think it's pretty clear we are going to break above and create a beautiful looking weekly uptrend on the USDJPY weekly chart. So with that being said, let's go down to a daily chart. This is the dilemma we were having. Just because there's a dilemma doesn't mean we didn't catch any trades, but we had a supply zone and a demand zone very close to each other. The demand at 149.57 and the supply at 150.36. You can clearly see we pushed up, created the demand, reacted off the supply, pushed back down into demand, reacted off of it, and now we are back into supply. So definitely tricky times. I don't really love trading in a ping-pongy type area like that. But with that being said, it doesn't mean we couldn't be looking for longs or shorts. And in my opinion, we actually had a reason to get in long. We clearly had a downward trend line here, boom, boom, boom. We had lower lows, pretty clear peaks and valleys. And we actually broke above the trend line, creating this demand zone here at about 150.10. And I point out to this zone to the Diamond members in the daily market breakdown video, and we caught a beautiful trade off of that zone to the upside. So just wanted to point that out as well. And we actually have new demand down here at 150.25. So if we do pull back down to this zone, I think it's another area where we could potentially look for longs, especially on day trading time frames. So if you are a day trader, this would be a great area to also look for day trading longs, maybe using a confirmation entry just on a lower time frame to kind of narrow down your entry, since this zone is kind of a reaction off of the trade we already had. So it's not the highest odds situation, but at the end of the day, it is a good little 1 hour zone that we could be looking for longs in. And not only that, we have a beautiful 4 hour uptrend with a 4 hour demand zone clearly being respected with tons of room to this trend line. So we could definitely be continuing to look for longs here in the USDJPY, especially since that daily demand has come in control on the DXY as well. So whether you want to wait for pullbacks down to the 1 hour demand zones, like I pointed out, or you want to continue to look for longs now, I think there's really no denying the 4 hour trend and the fact that we have lost momentum on the 1 hour chart. I think it's safe to say we could kind of continue to break out here on the USDJPY. All right, on to the GBPUSD, the British pound. What are your thoughts on the pound? Let me know in the comments down below. I actually had somebody comment last week say, oh, my comment on the pound was deleted. I will never delete a comment unless you are just outright attacking me and it's not worth anything and it's just rude. I will delete it, but I would never delete a comment ever. So I mean, if it's just anything about a pair or anything. So I do apologize, I'm not sure what happened, but anyways, let me know your thoughts on the pound. We do have that daily demand in control. Not loving this sideways action though, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. So right away, I just don't love it. I mean, look at this 4 hour chart. Yeah, you know, we could say momentum is up, I would say, but still, it's just there's really no demand here to look for longs at. It is just not one of those pairs that I'm super interested in. So my thoughts on the pound are I would pretty much stay away. I mean, if you want, momentum is to the upside here. That's clear. That's why I have this 1 hour uptrend indicator arrow here for the members who get my daily analysis. And you know, recently we did break above this supply zone. This was a significant supply zone, as you can see. And why was it a significant supply zone? Well, because not only did it break demand, but I mean, look at this huge move away, and we pretty much blew through it. Not blew through it, we did kind of react, but clearly we broke that zone. But the problem with it is we did not break the high. I would have preferred to see the high removed, but at the end of the day, we do have a demand zone down here at 1.26. If you think this, you know, trend is going to continue here in the 1 hour chart, then you could look for longs down in that area of demand. As far as shorts, I don't really see any reason to short right now, except for the fact that the US dollar is into demand. But if we break this 1 hour demand, then I would say maybe we could look for shorts then in that supply zone, something like that. And obviously, this I won't be able to show you guys on Friday today or Saturday whenever you're watching this. This will happen throughout the week if it does take place, and I'll have this zone on the chart for the members. So that's what I'm going to be looking for here on the pound, to see if this zone can be removed or to see if it's going to react to the upside. I'm not a day trader, but if you are a day trader, that's where you'd be looking for longs inside of that demand zone here on the GBPUSD. All right, on to the forecast for the USDCAD. As you can see, we have pretty much we've had a problem pushing up here on the USDCAD. Why? Well, in my opinion, is because of this supply zone right here at 1.354. We've reacted off of it pretty much once, almost twice, three, four times now. So if we do push up to it, I'm kind of expecting to see at least some of it, a small move off of this zone. If the dollar daily chart continues to go up, we'll probably see a move up looking at this daily chart. But that's why we have seen kind of some not the best times to trade in the USDCAD, and you're going to see how tricky this chart is. If you look at a 4 hour chart, I would say that this 4 hour trend is up. I don't know about you guys, I would say it's up, although I am not a fan of what's taking place right here. This is clearly a lot of manipulation to the downside, but it's still being respected in my opinion. So you could be day trading long this 4 hour uptrend. Now that's really all I'd be doing as far as looking at this 4 hour chart. And why? Well, because look at this 1 hour chart. We have a pretty nice 1 hour downward trend as well. So what do we do when we have a 1 hour downward trend and a 4 hour uptrend and no trend on the daily chart? What do? I pretty much stay away. I mean, this is a zone I point out to members as well. You could have been looking for longs in there as kind of a trap setup, support and resistance area, but not really the best time to be trading. But since we have a 4 hour upward trend line, we also have a 1 hour downward trend. So if we can break this 1 hour downtrend, leaving us with a 1 hour demand zone here, I will have that on my charts, and we could look for potential longs as we come off of, breaking this 1 hour downtrend. So that's what I'm going to be looking for here on the USD CAD to potentially get in long. But in the meantime, we need to wait for this downward trend to be removed, kind of to pretty much prove that this 4 hour trend line is going to continue up here on the USD CAD. All right, on to the Aussie US dollar forecast. Looking at the daily chart here, we've clearly seen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but basically 10 days in a row of strength in the Aussie. And, if you just look up, it's clear where we are headed if we do continue to go up to daily supply at 0.66. So why am I pointing this out? Well, I just want to say there is profit margin to the upside to a significant daily area of supply. So that is very important. We're going to pretty much focus on this 4 hour chart. We had a pretty nice 4 hour downward trend. We clearly broke the trend here, and we have seen some upward momentum. Now, this is not a 4 hour uptrend by any means, and we are actually currently being held up by a supply zone at 0.658 on the 4 hour chart. So if you are bullish and you want to trade up to that daily demand, which I think we could see, we pretty much want to wait for a pullback down to this demand at 0.65, where we could then look for longs, or we want to wait for this 4 hour supply to be removed in any 4 hour demand zone. We could be looking for longs there. I think that's fine. If you are bearish and you think we are going to continue the kind of the overall move down, then you could be looking for shorts as we come off of this supply zone. And that's pretty much all I would be doing. We could trade from supply down to 4 hour demand. So a couple options here. If you are going to look for shorts, I highly recommend only on day trading timeframes, in my opinion. It's just kind of the safest thing to do. But honestly, guys, it's tricky. I know I'm probably going to get some hate comments in here. Oh, you're either going to go long or short. Thanks for the forecast. I've got that comment a few times. But honestly, that means it's a tricky time to be trading, because I see reasons to look for shorts because we broke momentum in the daily chart. I get it, but I see clear momentum to the upside, a clear break of momentum from the downward trend, and I think we could be looking for long still. But I also see reasons to short. We have a supply zone in control, so definitely tricky times. It's all going to depend on what time frame you're trading as well. But I always like to kind of give both sides of the equation here. On to the forecast for the USDCHF. Reminder, we have a pretty nice weekly downward trend line. We do have a downward trend line in control, actually, pretty much, as we have pushed back up to that trend line. So we definitely could see some downward pressure. As we look at the daily chart, we have supply and demand here. We are just sitting in the middle, so not much to go off of, but we do have clear profit margin to the up and to the downside. So we pretty much have to rely on the lower time frames to make our trading decisions. And on the 4 hour chart, there's pretty much no denying this upper trend line being respected. We did kind of spike below demand, but in my opinion, it is still being respected. You could look for day trading longs as we come off this demand zone. That's really all I'd be doing, at least looking at this 4 hour chart. We've already got a reaction off of this demand down here, and this is a significant demand zone because we had that temporary 1 hour downtrend, broke above it, created demand, and nice reaction off of it. So the next move we are looking to see is kind of that next leg up to create a trend to the upside, and then day trading longs become even higher odds. But like I said, we have that 4 hour trend holding, so we could be looking for longs. And looking at the 4 hour chart, if we break this 4 hour demand zone like that, what is the next move that could take place? Well, what I would think that could be happening if we do break that 4 hour trend back to the daily chart, I think if that 4 hour trend line breaks, that could be a sign we are headed back down to daily demand at 0.86. And if we continue to go up, I think we're headed back up to 0.90. Those are my two profit targets here as we look at the USD Swiss. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil. So we're going to start with the daily chart here. We did have a daily supply zone. I wasn't a huge fan of it because it's a reaction off of supply back here. It's a very used area. I actually still think we could spike above here, kind of stop everyone out in my opinion. But in the meantime, we do have a supply zone that is in control, and that is why we have seen some downward pressure here on crude oil. We did have a 4 hour demand zone here, a nice reaction to the upside. I had this line this high up here. I was waiting for this to be removed because then we'd have a nice 4 hour uptrend, but we don't really have that as we have not removed that high. So now we are pushing back down clearly to this 4 hour demand at 76.26. Look, I don't like trading at tested areas of demand. especially when it's tested this much. It pretty much went in, you know, over 50% of the way in. Spent a decent amount of time here, so it's not really an area that I'd feel comfortable looking for longs in. If we just spike down and just hit it instead of reacting like this, then I would say maybe we could look for longs in there. But if you want, you know, we still could see a move off of it, but you would want to look for a day trading confirmation on like a 15-minute or a 5-minute chart. Not really anything other than that to continue to go up. And look, I think since it's tested, it's very easily we could break it. And we do have a demand down below at 74.25. We could look for longs in there. So 2 areas here we could look for longs at on oil. And look, if we break both of these zones, then I will have to switch to a bearish bias. But in the meantime, we do have a couple of zones here we could potentially look for longs at here on oil. You know, a couple 4-hour zones here that are looking pretty decent. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.